Well, I'll tell you the story about this Nehru jacket. We were at the Rotary Friendship Exchange host home. It was about 8 o'clock at night and said, geez, we'd like a Nehru jacket to take with us. Okay, I can arrange that. Called up his tailor from a shop. He showed up at his house about an hour later and had about 15 different jackets for us to choose from. So we picked one out and we're good to go.
He took your measurements and went and fixed it to... He took your measurements, took it back, and made it into a jacket that fit.
Right.
Actually, he was a tailor. You're up.
No, you want to talk about yours? You got an outfit on too.
Oh yeah, my one of my host families bought this for me for a gift when we were staying there. And brought it. Said, "Here, I brought you a present." And the scarf is from India, but it's from our friends in Guatemala. They're from India, and they gave me this when we went there for dinner one night. So there you go. Nothing, no biggie.
Yeah, and actually our Indian host bought this for me as well. They were very, very generous people, and they didn't want us to buy anything, which at times becomes a little bit of an issue, because we certainly like to pay for our own things. But anyway, to talk about a Rotary Friendship Exchange, what is it? It's a culture exchange where you're home hosted in families of Rotarians. You pay your own expenses, you visit Rotary projects, and you get to tour a lot of different businesses that you would not normally do on a normal tour. Our exchange was located in central India. We were able to experience the Indian culture, lifestyle, and hospitality. The idea is to build goodwill, peace, and understanding in the world. It's the beginning of a close friendship between our mutual districts and countries. And the hope is if you know someone, you will not go to war with them. Team Canada visited District 3040 in India last week in January, in the first part of February. Team India will be in our district from June 29th to July the 10th for 12 days, and our club will be home hosting them here from July 5th to July 8th. Our presentation today is only a small portion of what we saw. And also at this time, I'd like to thank Prelude Travel and Larissa. They did an awesome job of arranging our pre-tours and post-tour activities of the exchange. And we are getting, and GoWay actually sets it all up for us, but we're getting very, very spoiled. We used to travel on our own and do a lot of things on our own. Now we're saying, just call Larissa.
Okay, so when we started talking about going to India and we were telling people we were going, people were saying to us, oh, what do you want to go there for? That's the last place I'd want to go. The place stinks, it's filthy, it's hot, it's crowded, the traffic is horrible, the food is terrible. I heard nothing really good about India before I went from many, many people. And as we're going to show you, we didn't find any of that to be the case. In fact, we were cold some nights, so it wasn't too hot.
Okay, the picture you see here, obviously probably a lot of you know it, that's the Taj Mahal. It was exquisite, intricate marble inlaid work in this amazing building. It took 22 years to build, over 20,000 men. And the white marble was quarried 200 miles away, and it was brought there by a fleet of 1,000 elephants. The emperor built this in memory of his wife. She died at the age of 39 during the birth of her 14th child. And he went into mourning for 2 years, and he ended up focusing all his attention on building the Taj Mahal and other architectural
Wonders.
orders. The Taj Mahal is located in a beautiful setting on a big river. It's right at the bend, so you can see both ways. The grounds are just beautifully groomed. It's just a really gorgeous place. And the day Debbie and I were there, it wasn't that crowded. Because a lot of people have told us it didn't live up to expectations, but it is a World Heritage Site, and Debbie and it lived up to our expectations. It was totally awesome. Okay, this is our Rotary Friendship Exchange team from District 5550 and a couple of Rotarians from India. We had we spanned the whole district. We had a couple of Rotarians from Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Brandon, Assiniboia, Sioux Lookout, and Kenora. all small communities. This is our first host family that we met at their home. They treated us like celebrities. We walked in there, they had all these flowers.
They're marigolds.
Marigolds. They put a marigold necklace around your neck, shower you with petals, and they actually put a little red dot right in our forehead, and said, welcome. I said, whoa. I said, when you come to Kenora, we're really going to have to step it up. On the left there is another, this was our first part of our trip in Mumbai, and we went into we're in this park outside a museum, and these people came up to us and said, can we take your picture? Oh, sure, why not, you know? So this young lady was with her daughter and her husband, and they wanted a picture of us and selfies. We didn't really realize that was the beginning of something that was going to explode into something huge later on, because we became celebrities as we traveled around. There was young teenagers and people all running up to us. We want a selfie with you. We want a selfie with you. And we were just totally bogged down for a while trying to have all these selfies.
I wanted to explain, in the background you can see there's many pictures in behind this. When the Indians are here, if you want a group picture, you just yell at them, everybody get together. It doesn't matter what they're doing, insist and make them. We have probably 30 or 40 group pictures, because everywhere we went they kept making us take a group picture.
What is the red dot? What does that mean?
It started off, I think it's a Hindu religious sign, a blessing, I guess.
Yeah.
But now, in a lot of places, it's become a fashion statement, and the ladies actually wear a colored dot to match their outfit. And then if they're going to a really royal or fancy formal event, they'll glue a jewel on their forehead in between. And it's still a religious thing, but it's also a fashion statement. So one of our first places we went after we were in Mumbai was to the Ganges River and a city called Varanasi, which is the holiest city in India. The river is worshipped, really. People bathe in it. They come from all over the country to visit the Ganges. It's like a religious expedition, I guess, to go there.
Don't have a drink from it.
Oh, well, yeah, don't ever drink from it. In Varanasi, I think maybe some of you have heard that bodies are burned. When Hindu people pass away, they're cremated. Normally, anywhere in the country, person passes away, they will wait 3 days, and then they'll transport the body to the Ganges. They'll burn the body on the edge of the river and pour the ashes into the river. So we went by boat up to see where they do this, and if you see some smoke there, that's a body burning. They sell mountains of firewood. There's a boat in front that's full of firewood. You go there, you pay for your firewood, you buy marigolds to sprinkle over the body. They take the body down to the river, wash it first, and then bring it back up, and they put it on a pile of wood and they burn it, and then dump the ashes in the river. The only time they don't cremate a body is if it's a pregnant woman, if it's a child under 5, if it's a religious, like a priest or a prophet or someone who is a very educated person, they won't burn them. And anyone who's had a snake bite killed by snake bite doesn't get burned. So those bodies, they just weigh them down and they toss them in the river whole. The reason that they don't burn the educated people is because burning books is against the religion. And if you have all that learning, then it's the same as burning a book. Children under 5 are treated the same way as a god. And so a pregnant woman is considered to have a child under 5, so they wouldn't burn a pregnant woman.
And what is it about snake?
The snake, something about the poison in the body, they don't want it into the atmosphere maybe or something, I don't know. So Varanasi is a very, very poor city. We went down some of the back streets, they're the narrow corridors, and you could look into the buildings, and people were doing yoga, people were learning how to play instruments, people were making things to sell. Really, really interesting walking down through the back streets of Varanasi. And you can see the cow on the left. There's lots of cows wandering all over. I don't know if I had never heard of a stupa before. I didn't know what they were, but They are sort of like tombs that hold relics from the people who have passed away. And there's lots of stupas in India. These ones were made of brick. The giant Buddha was another place that they took us. There's mainly Hindu is the religion in India, but there's also Buddhism and Christianity. There's a few others, Muslim. This is another stupa. Sanchi is a World Heritage Site. The grounds are just gorgeous, and there's lots of monuments and everything. Lots, you can see the stone carving. So this is the one of the oldest stone structures from 2nd century BC, and it houses Buddhist relics. There's 4 gates. This gate is one of the 4, and they're all unique. Each one is carved individually, and they're all unique. It was pretty neat. When you go inside, you must walk in clockwise. There's a lot of, I don't know what you call it, but anyway, certain things that you have to follow, and one of them is to walk always clockwise around a stupa. Traditions, or I don't know if you'd call it superstition, but the women in India are absolutely gorgeous. The colors are vibrant. They're all dressed in those beautiful saris. The wealthy women have closets and closets in their houses full of saris. And interesting, they lock their closets inside their house because they're afraid that they're going to get their saris stolen, I guess. The girls on the right are nursing students that we met, and they were really excited to see us and wanted to have a good chat with us.
And had a selfie.
Yeah, and a selfie. Everybody wanted selfies. That's you.
We attended, I think, 3 Rotary meetings and had an opportunity to do our presentation. It was interesting. Our presentation focused on Rotary projects that Kenora was involved in our city and around. And the other clubs were more focused on their own personal life, their houses and things they did. But after hearing our speech a couple of times, they started talking about their own Rotary projects. This particular Rotary meeting, this club has a Rotary hall. They built a great big hall in order to hold their Rotary meetings, but it's very stark in there. It's got, white concrete, and it wasn't really that hospital.
It was like sitting in an unfinished basement.
And it was huge. It was huge. For this particular evening, they were cooking the food outside on the ground when they brought it in to eat. So it was a buffet style, but it was very interesting. Another meeting we went to was with a young group of Rotarians, and they were actually a club that was formed from friends who had gone to college together, all graduated from the same school, and they were the party group. Let me tell you, they wanted to party on. As we got there, we arrived at the meeting about 7 o'clock. They put us some appetizers, had a few drinks, did our presentation, then we started to dance. If you can believe that, this is the Dancing Rotary Club. They end their meeting with dancing. So this place was just rocking and rolling, and now it's about 11 o'clock at night. Great music. And we were all, oh good, we're going home because we're all dead tired. This was like our second day there or something, our first day. And they said, no, we're going downstairs for a buffet dinner. 11 o'clock at night, like I wasn't even hungry. And this here was patriotic dance. This was sponsored by a Rotary Club, and they had all kinds of young youth up there dancing and doing different dances. It was really entertaining. And if you can notice how we're welcomed, like we really have to step it up. This is way beyond what I've ever seen in Canada. But there's our names. A hearty welcome, Rotary Family Exchange, District 5550, and they list all our names. And then they got all these banners around and stuff, balloons, and it's crazy. But anyway, something to think about when they come here. Okay, street food. This is really interesting food. It all looks very, very good, but you have to be careful what you eat. But the interesting thing is sweet tea. I found out what sweet tea was when I was over there, and I was drinking it for probably the first couple of days at the host family, and so I said, this is really good, Finally, I had to go back to coffee. I said, bring me some coffee. I need coffee. But the sweet tea they serve on the streets is actually in biodegradable cups. No styrofoam, no plastic. And so I think that's a great idea. On the right there, they're making some candy. It was soaked in honey. And after our first meal out, when we were in Mumbai, we talked to the waiter. We said, look, we don't want this too hot, Oh, yeah, I'll look after it. Go see the cook. I'll get it. I'll talk to the cook, and we'll get it right. Well, anyway, that food came, and Like, I don't really like hot food, but I couldn't even eat it. And Debbie tried it and said, that was really hot. Holy mackerel, that's burning hot. So I said, well, I got to figure out how to deal with that. So then I found out when I go into a restaurant, no chili, no pepper. Everything was good. This is very interesting. We were at the host families. They were getting fresh milk delivered every day to the house in a little, like a 1 liter jug. And it was buffalo milk, and which is mostly more, like I assumed it would have been cow, but it was buffalo milk, which is more nutritious than cow. It's higher in vitamins. And they deliver the milk on the back of motorcycles in milk cans. I guess come up to the door, pour a little bit out for everybody, and keep going. But you see these buffalo walking up down the street everywhere.
So this is the place that I found the most interesting of everywhere we went. It's the world's collection of 14 devices that were built in the 18th century, and measuring all different kinds of distance from the sun. It had brick devices that were to do with astrology. There were 14 different brick devices to measure different kinds of things to do with the sky. And so there was the world's largest sundial in there as well. And everything is so accurate, and it's amazing because the 18th century, you'd think that they wouldn't have the skills with mathematics and everything, but they were really, really advanced. We visited a lot of forts and palaces and castles, and too many to even mention. This was one of them. You can see in the background, it's just across from that the world's largest sundial. The view from the top is a view of the whole city. There's a street scene with that same castle in the back, or fort in the background. Lots of everything, motorcycles, rickshaws, people, animals, just bustling. But it wasn't, you can see that it's not terribly crowded. We didn't find this country as crowded as what we expected. There's another one. This is the Amber Palace in Jaipur. In the restaurant there, they have pictures of Bill Clinton and who else was in there? Obama. Many of the American presidents have been to visit this one. They wanted us to ride an elephant to the top, but it was a great big weight for an elephant, and I wasn't really crazy about riding one. I'm kind of off on these animal excursions because of the way the animals are treated. The guide said that they really control how these animals can only do so many trips an hour, and a maximum of 2 people on an elephant, and they have all kinds of rules to try to protect the animals, but we hiked to the top and it wasn't that bad. This was a beautiful palace that we went to. Have you ever seen elephant beds? Made of stone. You can see the kind of bumps, and the elephants laid between them, and that was their beds in the palace. There's a museum inside. I just put one of the displays. They have all these copper pipe people holding instruments, the way they'd be played. I thought it was interesting, and the white horses, Indians love their white horses. We spent a whole day there. It was gorgeous. This is the Lotus Temple. It's a Baha'i place of worship. All religions can worship there. It was one thing that Gord and I noticed with our guides, with our host families. Everyone is really understanding of other religions and willing to let all religions live and be comfortable in their country. We never heard any complaining about other religions. The guides took us to many different temples and churches, and the other Rotarians were with us. They were always respectful, and so this temple was built to house all religions, and they hold Muslim, Christian, Hindu ceremonies there. It's welcome to everyone. Was quite an engineering feat. All those petals, there's 9 petals, and everything is symmetrical inside. It's just built just beautifully.
Well, this is a different modes of transportation. When you're traveling on the road, you can see elephants, you can see camels, pulling wagons, but you just have to pay attention. Because along the road, you'll just never know what you're going to see.
You can be on a 6-lane highway and there'll be a camel pulling a wagon down the road on the freeway.
But the thing that really stood out was traffic. Traffic in the city. It was unbelievable because on the road you have cars, you have trucks, you have tuk-tuks, you have rickshaws, you have everything you can imagine and cows and water buffalo, and these are all traveling on the road. And the interesting thing about the Indian drivers, they're so accommodating to everybody and everything. There's no road rage. Like I'm watching this driver and somebody cuts him off and he doesn't even flinch. Like there's no reaction at all. I said, that's totally incredible. But they just sort of all work. Like even the lights don't mean anything there. If it's a red light, doesn't matter. People are going forward. And if you're driving on your side of the road, all of a sudden you can look and there's another car coming at you. So well, that guy's not even on the right side of the road. I mean, that should be quite simple, get on the right side of the road. But anyway, that's sort of the way it is over there. But there's no accidents, and the idea of honking, like when you honk in Canada, it's usually somebody's cut you off or something, and you lean on the horn and just give it to them. Eh? Over there, they're honking steady. And the honking over there is a courtesy because it lets you know the other driver where you are and if you're going to pass them. Trucks on the back of their vehicles say, please honk, so they know where you are. And here's some of the loads, like that guy carrying balloons. I saw bicycle rickshaws carrying more than we could carry in a half-ton truck. Like there's no trucks over there. I can see why. I mean, look what they can do with these small little vehicles. This is something very interesting that happens on a Rotary Friendship Exchange. We went to this factory, and it was just huge. To me, when I walked inside, like it was making cotton. Right from the cotton they pick in the field to the finished product, and they were making all different kinds of like Nike, Zara, Prada, all these good garments. This place has about 10,000 workers. It goes 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Most of the workers live on site. They produce a superior quality and excellent design, and it's produced in an environmentally and sustainable way. It's very clean and well organized. When I first walked in, I thought I was walking into what looked like a paper mill after I walked traveling around. There's so many different things you can eat off the floor. It was just amazing.
We visited many Rotary projects. This was a dialysis unit that we visited. The Rotarians had purchased 9 dialysis units for this place, and people were coming from all over to get dialysis. They also had a cancer unit. One of the Rotarians that we met said that she saw that people were coming with their families to the hospital for cancer treatment, and there was nowhere for the families to stay. They couldn't afford hotels, and they were camping on the property of the hospital and in parks and whatnot. So her club built a residence for the patients' families to stay in. And this woman on the left, if you can see, she's preparing food. They prepare a lot of their food right on the floor. She's preparing food for the families of the patients and for the patients themselves. And it's a huge Rotary project. We went to the hospital where the cancer patients were. We didn't take any pictures. A lot of the cancer is mouth and tongue cancer because they do a lot of tobacco chewing. And we saw people with their whole jaw gone, and it was horrible. We visited a couple of Rotary parks. This was one of them. They just seemed to, I'm all worried about trying to meet our brand and get things right and get the color right and everything. Look at what they've got on their fence up there. It's looks like an old saw blade that they've made into a Rotary wheel. They have exercise equipment. They feed the hungry. That's a big thing in India, is feeding the hungry. I don't think anybody there should go hungry because there's free food everywhere. This was beside a Sikh temple. The kitchens were so big, there were hundreds of people working in them making food for the hungry. They feed thousands a day there, every day. Those pots, you could have put your whole family in one of those pots. They stood like this high and were as big around as the table, easily as big around as the table, and they make enough food for thousands a day in that kitchen. And everybody eats free. You can see them all sitting on the floor. They get a big tray. Everybody gets the same food, and you can go there, and anybody can go eat. I could have gone there and eaten if I'd have been so inclined. Weddings, I kind of thought, these people are a little crazy over weddings, but we were in our hotel room one night and we heard all this racket and bells and yelling and everything outside our window, and I ran to the window and looked out, and I saw a man on a white horse and this big wagon thing behind, and there were men with trumpets and men, I don't know if you know how they dance with their hands in the air and they turn around and they're yelling and all this going on. So the next day I asked about it, and that's taking this was 10 or 11 o'clock at night. They were taking the groom to the place where the wedding was going to be held. And they go down the street carrying on like that. The elephant in this picture, he was heading to a wedding. They paint them up with all kinds of paint and they go to the wedding. And we were invited to several weddings. Anybody can go to a wedding. What they do is they invite everybody they know. So you think about everybody you know in the whole world. Some of them invite thousands of people to the wedding. Nobody replies whether they're coming or not. They buy food for everybody. So the ones show up, and if you don't, you don't. And there are companies who collect all the food at the end of the wedding and distribute it to the poor, all the leftover food. They spend their whole life savings for their daughter's wedding. The women, the daughter's family pay for everything. And it's a status symbol to have a big wedding. There's more than cows. There were pigeons, monkeys, dogs. There's animals everywhere, and they all get fed. We saw people coming with these flatbread things, feeding the monkeys. The cows are left to wander all day. They get fed by everybody. It's a blessing. You get a blessing if you feed a cow. So everybody's feeding the cows, and at the end of the night, the cows know where they live and they go back to their homes. So I asked Sad about why the cows are so important there, and he said the cows. There was a story about a man who had a cow, and the cow gave him everything. Gave him milk, gave him cheese for food, gave him warmth at night. Nobody eats beef. Gord was just about going crazy by the end of the trip because he wanted a steak so bad. But they wander all over. In the bigger cities like Delhi, they have rules. They have places for the cows to go, and they're not wandering the streets in the big cities. But in the smaller places, in the smaller villages, they are. They will drink their milk, make cheese from their, yeah, they do. They just won't eat the beef.
A wine tour in India. As we were trying to buy some wine in India, boy, it was hard to find. We had to go down back alleys and everything trying to find a wine store. But we found the guy who actually grows wine. He started a few years ago, and he's only producing a small amount of wine. It wasn't the greatest wine, but we drank it.
It was awful.
But India is a beautiful country, and it's got the small country farms. They grow mustard, wheat, vegetables, and rice. We saw a lot of families with small plots of land where they'd be cutting wheat with a scythe and piling it and stooping it. And the wine tasting was good. It's interesting. The women work in the field in their saris.
So we went to a place that was like an ongoing circus, and got my hand painted. They insisted, as you can see, I've got Gord painted on my hand. I said, no, I didn't want my husband painted on my hand, but when in India. So, and they said it would last for 2 or 3 days, I think, and I washed my hands really hard trying to get that off, but it lasted probably 8 to 10 days. I had that red. Yeah. So I'm not getting that ever done again, anywhere. I had both sides done, and it just felt like I had a dirty hand all the time.
Now, don't they do that for the wedding too?
They do, yeah.
Well, all in all, you can see we had a great trip, and this is our 4th Rotary Friendship Exchange. This one, I think, was the very best, just because the difference in the culture and the religion and the different things that they do in that country. It was totally awesome, and I would strongly recommend anybody who has a chance to go on a Rotary Friendship Exchange to try it out, because it's a lot of fun, an economical way to travel and to learn about another culture. Thank you.